Tatyana is a director of quality engineering, formerly worked at multiple big FAANG companies such as Microsoft, VMware, Disney, and Tatyana is running meetup groups and conferences for quality engineers, which is very exciting in Seattle area. And we have Stanley is a technical recruiter at Cisco Meraki, formerly a technical recruiter at Meta. And yeah, we have full house of hiring decision people who involved in the process, starting from sourcing and ending to offering a job offer. Today we have great opportunity to do the mock interview with both of you guys. So most of the time when we're going through the interview, we don't get the feedback, or we get getting the very generic feedback, right? Oh, we decide to move with another candidate. So Stanley, Tatyana, what is the trends? So today is August 2025, and obviously hiring market and the job market itself, it doesn't feel it's getting way better. It's actually feels that it's not getting better.
No,
But there is few changes that we start seeing. Stanley, probably you can open this up.
Overall, I do think that I'm seeing progress in how the market is. I do feel like there are companies who are definitely hiring. And so you do see those roles open up. It's just that at this point, the companies are still able to be picky about who they want to interview, who looks good for the role. And there are still many applicants out there on the market at this time. But one big trend I wanted to highlight, you and I connected earlier about some trends in hiring. So, no surprise, right? AI is a big topic as of the last few years, but Meta just announced that they're allowing AI usage in their coding interviews. So, that's a big change in their stance previously. They just announced this about a week or two ago.
Mhm.
Usually they're at the forefront of hiring practices and technology in general. And then it might be down the line, but they have allowed it. And I think they're working through exactly how to identify a candidate who knows how to use AI, but still, how do we evaluate them? Right. So I think a lot of this is going to play itself out over the next few months or so.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tatyana, what have you noticed anything?
yeah, we do see positions open up. I'm seeing maybe a raise in the positions, increase in the positions that we see on the market. However, getting through to the recruiters is still hard because of how many people are on the market, because of all of the layoffs that kept happening, right? So Microsoft had another layoff recently, and companies like still focus on optimization on how to get more lean, and there is a tons of talent on the market, which means that cold applications are working less and less. And so networking and knowing people and getting the sponsors and champions are a lot more important, and is important as ever. So still a tough market, and honestly, with so many layoffs, it will take some time to get better, right? Like when all of these people find jobs, then eventually the market will get better and maybe go the other way around. But it doesn't mean that it's hopeless. So I don't want you guys to think that it's impossible to find a job. You just have to be more strategic on your job search and how you do it and what you do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I still see that some companies are still hesitate to go with like Meta did with AI tools, allowing candidates using AI tools. I see some companies more allowing to use Google, like old-fashioned tradition, but yeah, I think times is slowing, I mean going, but companies are not all jumping into that. Yeah, and traditionally I ask this when you hiring, when you post the jobs and when you go through the interview, what usually you are looking into the candidates? What is the green flag and red flag for you? Tatyana?
So it all depends on the position, of course. So each position has its own requirement. So I would say there's probably three aspects that I'm looking at. One is technology. What skills do you have? Which technologies you have experience in? The second one is, in general, your background in tech. What kind of companies did you work at? What kind of jobs did you do? What levels of the jobs that you did? That usually contributes to evaluation of, hey, would you be good for this level? And the third one is, of course, the kind of personality and aptitude, right? So what is your working style? What is your kind of motivation, and why do you do this job? And would you be a good culture fit for the company?
Yeah, I think Tatyana hit the nail on its head. We evaluate a few different things over here, and it just depends on, like she said, the role or even who you're talking to, right? Because an engineering person evaluating you as a candidate, what they'll be looking for is going to be different than what I look for as a recruiter, right? It's all of the above, everything Tatyana said, but it comes down to communication, how you present yourself. When I look at a resume and your background and experience, have you done similar work? Do we feel like you would succeed here in this position based on our needs? Right. Yeah, it's literally all of the above, but we take a look at every aspect of it. And there's a process that we set out as recruiters to work with hiring managers to make sure that our process works to look for the right candidate for this position.
Awesome, awesome, great. Now let's try it out in practice. And let's go with the first candidate. Can you tell a little bit what's your situation? What are you looking for? What kind of position?
Yes. I have about 20 years of experience in different domains like banking, e-commerce, healthcare, insurance, and lately I've been looking for my contract ended and I'm looking for a new job opportunity. And I have landed on a job for one of the big tech companies for a product quality assurance manager position. And then was a preparation of getting ready for the interview process. I was going through some of your mock interviews on YouTube, and I was really interested how you were driving these interviews and the feedbacks the candidates was getting. Since I'm preparing for like the final round, they have 5 rounds, and one of the round they have a people management like leadership, they have technical concept rounds. So with all these interview sessions coming, I thought if I can be a part of one of these mock interviews, that'll help me. And something I am a little worried about is their technical round because I have been a part and driven automation teams and build automation frameworks, but I haven't done like actual coding for a very long time. But I've always been like into management, but not actually managing. This position I'm applying also something that they're looking for automation like strategy and team management, but not necessarily like actual coding. So the interview will not have actual coding, but still I will not need to know to talk about the frameworks and tools and all these things. That's a bit about my story.
Okay, okay. Stanley, you wanna start over?
Yeah, looking at your resume, it looks like you organize it well. I do think that you could use a little bit of reformatting to help with the spacing so that we could see more of your experience at one time. Expertise.
Yeah, a lot of the formatting got messed up because I took out a bunch of like names and the company names, and so formatting was off since my main goal was to kind of get prep for this upcoming interview. I thought this formatting is okay, and then if I can
Yeah,
get some real feedback.
yeah. Let's ignore the formatting because obviously. But yeah, up to you, Stanley, Tatyana. Handing over the microphone to you.
So, Stanley, do you want to ask a few questions and then I can go so we emulate the recruiter and then hiring manager interviews?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and start then. Okay. Yeah. So my first question to you is why are you currently looking? It looks like you've been working at TSC for about 7 years or so. I'm curious what your current situation is right now and why you're looking to leave.
Yeah. My contract ended end of June or July. My contract ended with a bank after 6.5 years. There was a lot of projects that went on hold due to the situation, and I was working as a consultant through one of the like a big vendor company, and my position was no longer needed, and had to start looking for a job.
Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that. And as
Yeah.
far as your experience goes, I'm curious about the structure of it, right? Because it looks like your client was the bank. So I'm curious about were you integrated deeply in there, or did you work with a lot of people from TCS or TSE?
Lot with the bank. They were like a technology partner for the bank for the resourcing wise, but they weren't like an outsourcing, like software outsourcing company or anything. So I was working full time with the bank. My client was the bank employees, like everything was related to bank.
Okay, everything was related to the bank. And then about the team you led, how large is that team?
Team was about 13 people.
13 people.
Yes.
Okay. And then in terms of your leadership style, can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, I consider myself as a servant leader. I try to lead by examples and identify different team members' strengths and what they want to contribute to, and use their strength, and also evaluate different people's career growth plan, and then have an individual career growth plan for them and try to use their skill set in different areas possible. I have to make sure they're happy with what they're doing, and also happy with the career path they have. And I try to be a hands-on manager as well, if to be able to back anyone in my team if they're absent. I want to know like exactly what's going on in as well, not just a manager to get updates and present to the executives.
Yeah, actually really like that answer from you where you try to protect your team and essentially try to enable them. Those are some of my favorite managers personally. As far as team members who were put on like performance plans, do you have any difficult people that you work with, someone you managed where you had to potentially put them on a PIP or and essentially help them get improve their performance?
Yes, I have. There was a time when I was working for another company, not the bank, just before the bank. He was at the beginning a star player, was really performing well, but suddenly midway through he was losing interest, lack of enthusiasm, and slugging in work. Their burn down chart, burn down, the work breakdown, burn down was getting lower, and productivity was lowering, and there was complaints from the team. So I was monitoring him, and then I had a one-on-one with him to understand, is it the type of work that was he's doing not motivating, or is it like something to do with the skills that needs to be enhanced, or is it a personal reason? So I had to gauge with him, and he was saying that how he wasn't wanted to be more of into development, not being interested in QA. And I tried to leverage his skills more to the SDET side and find a middle ground. Then I came up with a more 30, 60, 90-day plan for him to improve and slowly become a more into becoming an SDET, not more QA work, but more of a role of doing closely working with the developers in CI/CD integration. And yeah, he performed well. It was more like understanding, like seeing what his interests are, and giving him a goal, like a measurable goal that he can grow with.
Amazing. I like that last part where you set the measurable goal because I do think that is key to really working with someone and have a clear idea of what success looks like to you and clearly paint that picture and help them with that. But that's all the questions I have for now.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you for your time.
All right. Amali, you ready for the next interview?
Yes, Tatyana, thanks.
All right. So one of the questions I have is you mentioned in your resume that you take pride in managing high performance team. What is a secret to high performance teams for you? So how do you ensure, how do you build the high performance teams?
Yes. There, I have quantitative and qualitative metrics that I look into. If the team is high performing, things like the defect leakage has to get lower. We have to find more defects during testing time versus things that's getting detected in production environment. And then we have to improve like the code coverage percentages and faster QA sign-off cycles. Those are some metrics that I look into, see if the QA team is performing enough, like data quantitative matrices, and also to see if my QA team is performing enough, then use like qualitative analysis as well, like talking to like cross-functional team, like the the Scrum team, the rest of the meeting in the team, to find out, are the QA, are we being effective enough? Have we been able to, like, the test cases, are they detailed enough? Are we have we been able to allow them to feel confident about the release? How can we improve more? Like in the retrospective, I started to gather data from other teams or like in other meetings to see how we can improve. So all these approaches are taken into consideration to see if we are being an effective team.
So that's how you measure if your team is effective, and getting feedback from other teams is helping you evaluate if your team is high performing. But
Yes.
how do you make the team from a low performing to a high performing? So you measured it, you realized
Yes.
it's not high performing. Now what do you do?
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. If we are not high performing, then have to first see what are the areas that says we are not high performing. Are we missing defects, like a lot of defects found in production? So first find what's the quality gap we are having. And then is it like things that we can do is anything that's being tested regularly in a release. We can think about any stable piece of code can automate, increase that automation coverage to reduce like the regression cycle to shorter time so team can focus more on other parts of testing. So to become a high performing team is one is in trying to increase that code coverage, automation code coverage percentage, and writing a quality test scripts, and even in the stories, like including that into definition of done, also like writing clear like acceptance criteria, like being that tightening that QA process and make it more process oriented, and then see if there's a skill gap to go to that next level of testing quality process, see where the skill gaps, do we need any more resources, can we train the existing resources to integrate new technology. And also something is like always not just be testing like one phase and see how I can improve the overall process, like being a part of like actively being a part of like during backlog grooming or sprint grooming, asking that clarifying questions, coming up with more edge cases, like testing with like more real-time production data, like trying to like make sure our QA process is detailed and thorough as one way to be an effective team.
So basically, you analyze the results of the team, you analyze the processes that are being followed, and you identify the gaps in the processes or optimization that you can introduce to help the team to bring better results.
Yes, that correct.
All right. And then after you identify these gaps, so what do you do? Do you talk to individuals? Do you talk to the team? How do you make sure that now the team does something differently?
So if I understand the question correctly, now that I know the gaps, your question is how am I going to improve? Is that correct?
Yeah. So what do you do with the team? Because you analyzed, you understood the gaps, but how does the team becomes high performing? Do you tell them like, go do this, right? So what's that process like? How do you adjust the team's direction, basically?
Yes. Again, like when I identify, I will have to exactly know where the path that we are lagging. Is it like the team is not high performing enough due to, let's say, the regression cycle are taking way too long and every single release, and we are being a bottleneck to the team? So that means we need to reduce the testing cycle. That means automating more things. Or like team has skill gaps. Team needs to get more trainings or skills or enhancing like their skill set. So I need to know exactly why the team is lagging, what are we low performing on. And then the approach would be whatever that is, identifying who would be the best to work on what, to utilize their skill set wisely. I will have weekly team sync ups with the team, because if they are supporting different vertical like sprints, so we share about like what went wrong, how we could do better, what's our next approach going to be, and also meeting with the team one-on-one to provide them the right direction on where we need to head and guide them. So my answer is depends on what that area is, what we are lagging. I will take that necessary approach. If the whole process need to improve, then like the whole process need to be rearranged, like writing from clear test plan to test case and test data to everything. But that'll be my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Let's move with the feedback.
Yes, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was going to ask.
Tatyana was the last one. Probably you can continue, Tatyana. What went well? What could be improved?
So I have just a couple things for you. One is from the Stan's questions. When he asked you, why are you looking for a job, basically, right? So you talked a lot about the past. Hey, here's my job that I had. This is why I don't have a job now. So I would say in that answer, leave some time for the positive and just say, hey, here's what happened. My contract ended. Here's what I've done there, but here's what I'm looking for now. So I would end it on a positive note rather than end it and say, okay, my contract ended and then now I'm looking for a job. So it doesn't sound positive to me.
Yes, understood.
And then the second thing I have for you is, when I was probing you on how do you make the high performance teams, right? I've heard a lot about the results that you're going to drive and how you're going to come up with a strategy and optimize the processes. I did not hear enough about kind of people's side of it. Interestingly, when you answered Stan about the career growth and performance improvement for an employee, you talked about how you're going to figure out their motivation and what they like to do and their skills. But when I asked you about the team, you talked about your analysis and your results, and you didn't talk about how does the team feel working together, or how do they feel about what the issue is, right? So I would expect your answers were great, but it should only be a part of the answer. I would add to that you would include the team in figuring out why, what's going on, get the retrospective with them of how things are going, and figure out how to sometimes blend the team together, because sometimes it's just they need to be supportive of each other and help each other, and that just makes a greater team. So I didn't hear this people side in your answer.
Got it. Yeah.
The result sides was good. Those are my only 2 points.
Okay, yeah. And my feedback is I think my interview was pretty easy. I don't have a specific job rec, so it's hard to match your background with the requirements. But in general, you could get a feel for what I'm looking for by the questions that I ask. I'm digging for team size. I'm asking about like your management style and how you deal with underperformers. So that might give you an indication in what goes on behind the company. That might be a situation here but that will give you some guidance into, or I guess that would give you a little window into what the role might be just based on the questions that I ask in general. But overall, when I asked about the performance review and someone being on a performance plan. I thought your answer was solid. You laid it out with some details about like the situation and how you handled it. So I was able to follow that fairly well.
Thank you, Stan.
All right. Honestly, Emily, you raised pretty high standard bar on the very first interview. And
Yeah,
I can
I
tell
would
you,
say those were pretty good. Like I would rate you
Oh,
like maybe
thank you.
9 out of 10, probably.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
thank
I would
you.
agree there. And one thing that you could also take away, and this goes for everybody in general, is that I believe that most interviewers, including hiring managers, want to make it a conversation, right? I think it's hard because we're squeezing this into 10 minutes total between both me and Tatyana. But in real interviews, yeah, again, you could just try to have more of a flow back and forth, like flow with the hiring managers for conversations.
Yep.
Got
Yep.
it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Emily. I hope
Thank
it was
you.
helpful for you and hopefully see you next time in our mock
Thank
interviews.
you.
Yeah. Now we have candidate number 2. Anyway, hi, Gauri.
Reasoning.
Candidate.
Yeah. Thank you, Evgeny, Stanley, and Tatyana for doing this. Actually, I'm participating after a long time. So to give a background, I am from the QA. I don't see the resume.
Oh, yeah. Let me share your resume, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Don't tell about yourself yet. We just tell your situation, like what kind of position you are looking for.
Okay. So I have been working in the QA field for past 12 plus. I recently lost my job in May, actually due to, I can say, AI, and our whole organization shifted to India. I lost a job in May. So what I'm doing currently is I'm learning AI stuff. Taking some boot camp in large language modeling, hoping to proceed in that direction so that I
Okay.
don't get.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got the idea. All right. Why don't we start with the very first question? Usually we'll go, please tell us about yourself and tell us about your last project that you've been working on.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, Evgeny, do you mind if we change it to just tell us about yourself?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're starting to look after so many years at one place. I just want to hear you just tell us about yourself.
Okay. I've been in the software testing for more than 12 years. I started my testing career with Brocade, a networking company, wherein I was a system test engineer. I was in charge of VoIP testing end to end. And at the same time, I also led the team for FIPS and Common Criteria certification for all our switches and routers. After that, actually, I joined the HPE ArcSite unit, which in which I was working on ESM. ESM is actually a SIM, which is a security information and event management platform. And there I worked for about, I think, 10 plus years. And yeah, so over there, I started off working on the HA part of ESM, where HA stands for high availability. So I'm pretty good with Linux tools and Linux software. After that, this product actually, I also worked on the distributed part of it, distributed systems, because when I joined, ESM was a compact product. Then we shifted for the performance to get more performance. We shifted from the compact system to the distributed system. So I was also working on the distributed, in which I was also working on HA along with the distributed cluster. After that, the same product, we decided to containerize the product. So I ended up working on Kubernetes for ESM, and then also deployed the product in AWS. I was also involved in testing end-to-end testing for the same product in SaaS.
Okay. Thanks, Corey. So I'll just give you a little bit of feedback there. One thing I really liked was your initial answer, right? People could frame it how they want, but in general, when asking about, okay, who are you? What's your background? Just share a little bit about your background. I myself always start at the beginning, but I just blaze past into some of the most relevant work and work experience that I have in general. For you, I think you did a pretty good job of that, just bringing us from Brocade to your current company. One thing that I would point out is that on your resume, it looks like it's part of the same company, right? Am I right about that?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
HPE, that unit was bought by Micro Focus, and
Mhm.
then the same unit was bought by OpenText.
Okay. And I noticed that you talked a lot about the products that you supported. I do think that it's beneficial to share that information, but I do think that you stayed on that topic for a little bit longer than I would have liked. Personally, I would have liked to hear more about your growth or your transition from one company, HPE, to Micro Focus to OpenText, or one business unit to another. And just looking at the titles of your resume, just that growth in terms of being a senior from one group to another, and then becoming a lead, and hearing more about what you did as a lead. So I would have loved to hear some of that.
Okay. Okay. So I'll add that.
Yeah, I think it's very important point, this tell me about yourself question. And Evgeny, we should do a session just on that, because that sets the tone for the whole interview. And I think we've learned a few good lessons here, Gary, from your intro. One of the things is, what I don't like to hear is a list of the companies I worked at. I don't, you only have 2 minutes to do your introduction. I would say keep it to 2-3 minutes. So don't tell me all the companies you worked at, but tell me your strengths. Why are you unique? Why should I hire you over someone else? What are your strengths? And maybe a few technologies. Something that goes way over my head is the acronyms. ESM, PSM, UMS, I have no idea. And if you're going to try to explain that in 2 minutes, no one's going to get it. And most of the people wouldn't even know what that is. Especially recruiters, if it's not a very common technologies. AWS, sure. Kubernetes, sure. But I've heard a lot of words where I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And you want to be very clear, and you want to sell yourself in the best light rather than saying the list of technologies and companies you work at. So I'll leave it at that, but I think you need to rework that intro. Sit down and then practice it a few times. You can do so much better than this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Tatyana. Thank you, Stan.
Yeah, it really is dependent on who's interviewing you as well. A recruiter might want to hear one thing, where a manager might want to hear some of the, let's say, a little bit more in depth about the technical aspects of your work. But it is such an open-ended question that you could really shape it however you want. And like I said, depending on your audience, you could tell a different story.
Yeah, but it's not the time to go deep. It's not the time to go, okay, this is the list of companies. This is the list of technologies. So
I should not say that I work from the compact mode to distributed to containerized. Should I mention all that or no?
to me, if you're interviewing for the position which is about those technologies, then yes. But if you're interviewing for a position which doesn't use those technologies or doesn't care about those technologies, then you don't have to mention them.
Okay. 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 Got it. Thank you.
All right. How much time do we have left?
All right.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah. We can have one more question.
All right. Stan, do you want to ask, or?
I'm going to take a look at the resume and see if there's anything in particular I want to bring up. But if you have something right now, feel free.
Let me just ask this straightforward question. So, Gary, tell me about your recent accomplishments in the last few years that you're very proud of.
Okay. Yeah, there was one initiative which was actually, I was talking to our product manager, and he was complaining that our product, so people were not ready to upgrade. That is the reason, because we had a release which was a golden, which was called as or dubbed as a golden release, and the customers were not ready to upgrade. So I was just chatting with the product manager, and I came up with the currency, we call it as a currency upgrade initiative, wherein what I did was, I took lead in this, and I chose a couple of people, and three of us, we asked our product manager to give us a list of the customers and which releases they were on. And according to that, we just picked a few of the releases, and we went through each of the upgrade cycles, how much time it took. We actually got the system tables of the customers, and we cleaned up, and then used the same system tables, and we gave them the exact path how to upgrade. And I also sat and wrote the documentation for it, and the customers were very happy about it. So that is what I was very proud of that. I was also proud of the HA document. We actually got rave reviews for the HA document.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good story. And so in the beginning, you told me that the product managers complained about, you said the upgrades not going well?
Yes. No, actually, the customers were not ready to upgrade from the golden release.
Oh, okay. They were hesitant to upgrade.
Yeah, they were hesitant to upgrade to a new release. Yeah.
Okay, and why were they hesitant?
They didn't want, it was a security product, so they didn't want to. But at the same time, I think it was very important for us and for the customers so that they upgrade, so that they don't lose the security features that were up in the new releases.
And so you build the confidence for customers or
Yes,
for PMs to do the upgrade?
No, I built the confidence for the customers as well. Of course, PM is involved in this. So PM as well as the customers. So once
you help customers to feel more confident in the upgrade, and you provided documentation, and it went well, and customers were happy.
Yes. The shortest path, the time taken for upgrade, everything was provided to them.
Yeah. Okay, this is a great story. I think you can polish the details a little bit, just write it down and make sure that who benefited from your actions, what were your actions, and how did PM feel, basically, because you started with PMs. But I think it's 80-90% there. Just practice it a few times and then it'll be an awesome story.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
All right, did we finish with all feedbacks? No, we haven't started.
Stan, did you have any additional feedback?
I don't have any additional feedback. I think that, yeah, being new on the market again after so long, now you have to just verbalize and communicate what it is you're looking for in your next role. So that might be a question that comes up often from the recruiting and a hiring manager standpoint. I would prepare for that question as well.
Okay. Thank you, Stan.
All right, thank you, Gauri. Good luck with the job search.
Thank you.
And yeah, let's move forward.
I'm noticing that we have a third female doing mock interviews, and I'm just proud of women at the same, on one hand, that we're so willing to work on ourselves and improve ourselves. I'm very happy to hear that. But I also feel bad that we have so many women on the market looking for jobs. So
yeah, I'm happy to. We have improved diversity also. Sorry, but it's not my resume.
Oh, it's not your resume? Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, meanwhile, maybe you can tell what kind of position you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm looking for a software engineer, front-end engineer mostly position, but also open for full stack. And now I'm worked for one company. It's a contract position and remote, and I'm looking for like more full-time and working in person, like with a team. So yeah, I'm just continue looking for a job in my location.
And Vida, let me clarify something. Did you say that you're currently working, or did you say something about just working at one company as your experience?
No, I'm said that I'm currently working, but it's more like volunteering position. It's unpaid, but yeah, I'm going just set like it's a contract position just to not lost my skill set. And yeah, I'm just open for full-time roles.
And you don't have to say that it's a not paid position, by the way. Stan, what do you think?
In general, yes. But for today's purpose, I think it's good.
Right.
Yeah, in general, you don't have to say that.
Yeah, I share it just with you, but yeah.
Okay.
In general, I will just say that, yeah, it's contract position and my contract like will end, and that's why I'm open for full-time position now.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. I think a good question to ask is the similar question we asked last time, but yeah, you could tell me a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, I'm worked as a software engineer more than 5 years, mostly for outsourcing companies, collaborate closely with teams on project for US-based clients like SolarWinds and Deloitte. I'm most experienced in developing a website and reusable component libraries using TypeScript, Angular framework, and React. Beyond development, I also have had all-hands experience gathering requirements directly from stakeholders, also mentoring team members and doing demos. I'm passionate about finding solution according to the requirements, solving complex problems, and delivering new feature to the end user.
Okay, awesome. And what are you looking for in your next role?
Yeah, I'm looking some like interesting project, like some impact into the end users, because yeah, I would like to receive some feedback about my work and understand that it's improved something. So yeah, just have some impact result. So yeah, I'm looking into some like interesting project to be like woke up and going to job that like improve something, and also looking to work in a team.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And I do see that you've been at a few companies. You mentioned that you are very familiar with JavaScript using Angular and TypeScript as well. Did you learn all that over the last couple of years in the projects that you were working on?
Yes, at first, yeah, it was like studied at university, and after this, I just use my knowledge and gain some commercial experience using TypeScript, JavaScript, and front-end frameworks.
Okay, and then can you tell me about the most impactful projects that you've worked on?
Yeah, most impactful, it was for company when I created like a library for usable components, like using Angular. And this library was migrating to open source, why I think it's the most impact for me, because it was not just as usual, maybe technical task, but also I have to dive deeper into something which I did not do previously, like accessibility for the library. So I was responsible to apply accessibility stuff to our library components. And it's not just improved like accessibility for our project, but I understood that it's improved people life, because people with disabilities also now could use some websites which like built using these component libraries.
Okay, thank you, Vita. That's all of my questions.
All right, I'm going to ask one question and then we'll go to feedback. So Vita, tell me, have you ever had a situation where you've been working with a coworker, where you've been working together on a project and you were responsible for different part of the project, but you had to agree on the solution and you guys had different approaches and basically you had a disagreement on how to design a certain service? Can you give me an example when you disagreed with a coworker and what did you do in that situation?
Yes, we actually have had these situations sometimes because we have a planning session because we're an agile team, and yeah, sometimes we discuss like some hard decision for our project and bring our own ideas. So yeah, I had previously the same situation when we have different approaches into the same feature for the project, and each of us just describe our own like approach. We just create some like testable solution and compare our results, and just after this we decided which solution was better and with which continue doing. As a result, we just like check what the solution was the best using some tests like speed test, or is it okay for further development, like increasing functionality or other things according to our architecture. And also I asked like opinion from our lead team member or some other coworker who is more experienced in it, just to have like better understanding and maybe also give his own approach on it. So
yeah, that's a great answer overall, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Stan, do you have any feedback you want to cover?
My feedback is all positive. I think that you kept your answers short and to the point. You shared a little bit and expanded on some of your answers. But yeah, for the most part, you kept your answers short and to the point. My question about your most impactful project, I liked it because you answered not just what it was, but why it was the most impactful for you. And you also said that another reason was because you didn't know it completely. So you had to go be resourceful and figure it out yourself. Right. So I think your answer there, you answered the question and then you expanded on it. And it showed several qualities that a lot of people look for.
Okay, thank you.
From my side, I did your answer for the conflict question. I think you kind of outlined good approaches, right? Test the solution and figure out which one is better, and also talk to a more experienced leader. I think that was a great answer. I'm going to pick on one thing, like in how you were answering the question, and I'm going to pick on the tone of your answers. So, interestingly, the last answer that you gave, the tone has changed a bit, and it felt to me like it was more confident because you were talking in sentences that start like high and then your tone goes down. For example, I designed the airplanes, and so your tone goes from up to down. But in the beginning, when you were doing the introduction, your tone went up with a question mark. It was, I was doing this, and maybe I was doing that, and maybe I did this too. And so it was hard for me to listen, and it didn't build the confidence. It didn't sound confident for me. And it was hard to listen because there were question marks at the end of every sentence. So I would recommend just listen, record yourself and listen. And if you can change the tone, you would come across a lot more confident, right? Even if you're giving the right answer, if your tone is the opposite of your answer, it would create a conflict in people's mind. Do you know what?
Yes. Yeah, I understood. I think for me, it's mostly because it's not my native language
Yes,
and I feel more confident in my native.
Yes, I totally relate to you because I'm also not, English is not my native language. But when we create these question marks in our conversation, it would damage our confidence. We would not be perceived as confident and will hurt you at the end as a professional.
Yeah, good point. Thank you very much for your suggestion.
All right. Thank you, Vida. Hope it was helpful for you. Tatyana, there are a few open questions in Q&A. Can you answer that? Ali asking, how do technical interviews that allow Cursor or Cloud work right now?
I think Stan just mentioned that Meta allows the AI, right, in the technical screens, but it's still not very common to allow the AI. So I think we're still, the industry is still transitioning. And I bet you 5 years from now, it will be more common, but not yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while for it to really be mainstream, but they are a leader in the space and people are looking at what they're doing. And if they're scooping up a lot of talent, I think a lot of people will follow.
Yeah, there's another question from Raymond. How would you address layoff that resulted in career gap during the interview? Like, basically, how to deal with gaps?
So I would say focus on what you have done with that time, right? So don't just say, oh, I had a gap and that's a bad thing. Gaps on their own is not a bad thing. It depends. Did you grow yourself? Did you grow your skills during that gap? Or even if you took time off and you didn't grow, what have you done in the last 6 months to catch up on your growth and on the modern kind of tools and technologies and whatnot, right? So focus on, hey, yes, maybe I took time off for 6 months because, I don't know, I was sick, I had a burnout, whatever. But here's what I've done with that time to grow myself. And here's my recent projects that I explored myself, why I'm still relevant to this role and I'm a good fit for this role. So I accept the gap, but then focus on what you've done that kind of makes it irrelevant.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. When I talk to my hiring managers, I do point out the fact that since COVID, these last 5 years have just been a wild ride, right? Mass layoffs, mass hiring, and then layoffs again over the last few years. So I try not to let that be a negative stigma in my mind. For the most part, it's not. Like I myself have been part of layoffs over the last few years. And I do tell my hiring managers not to think that way as well, or at least give some thought into it, right? Like that it's not a bad thing. For the most part, I think you just address it as it is. This is what happened. I was part of this project. It got shut down for this reason. And I would honestly make it a learning experience. Now that you're searching again, you had some time to think about what you really want in your next role and just be able to communicate that well to either myself or the hiring manager.
All right. Great, great. Okay, we going actually with a rapid speed, guys. Candidate number 8.
Okay. It looks like you're still in school right now, right?
Yeah, I have one more quarter left to graduate, which will be this upcoming autumn quarter.
Okay. And what made you decide to choose computer science as a degree?
I was always interested in solving problems, creating new projects, and I realized that I had like always excel in this type of problems. So that made me decide this career path.
Nice. And what kind of courses have you taken?
I've taken all the core courses, the data structures. I took a web programming class. That one was as an extra class. It wasn't in my program, but I decided to take it. I took databases classes, as well as, sorry, give me 1 second. Also, yeah, during every quarter, I choose seminars about special topics of computer science. Some of them help me they talk about how to gain skills in the workforce. They also talk about like ethics when it comes to coding and working in the technology field. Other of my core courses was software design and implementation. And for my 400 level, which is the higher level of classes at my school for an undergraduate, I choose data visualization, human computing interaction, and introduction to artificial intelligence.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So it sounds like you've taken a lot of different courses on different areas of engineering, right?
Yes.
You see that you have some experience in the back end with databases in your current role.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
and then when you
think
first answered the question or told us about what you're looking for, you said an engineering position. Is there a specific type of engineer position that attracts you?
so. I'm doing right now also a minor in business. So my goal is to gain experience programming projects and then be able to move on managing projects. So that's my goal. And the specific area I would like to work is a database, since that's my experience right now, my work experience, my previous past experience. And also I took like all the series of classes in database. So since that's what I have more experience with, that's the area that calls more my attention right now.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. And Tatyana?
Since you don't have a lot of kind of like experience yet, I think maybe we should just leave it at that. I think I have feedback for you I can share. I would say you need to kind of like work on confidence, because all of your answers came across as it almost came across as no interest, no enthusiasm. It was basically, we were trying to get these answers out of you and you were just giving us very little. That's how I felt. And it felt like I didn't hear the passion for what you do. And so maybe it's because you didn't tell enough stories, or you didn't tell enough kind of things, but I was turned off in a way because I felt no energy. Like I didn't feel like you even want to talk to us. Okay. So I
Yeah,
would say practice in the mirror, talk this through, and then watch yourself. You want to come across as someone who is really passionate about what they know what they want, and they're passionate about what they want, and they know kind of what they have to offer,
okay.
right? Like self-knowledge is very important. And practice with friends, you need to pick up the energy. Like the energy has to go the level up. With this level of energy, and maybe you were distracted, I don't know. Maybe you talk with more energy in general, but you need to pick up more energy and you need to show passion. That's actually what you want to do. Right now, it feels weird dragging you to do this job, and you're like, no, I don't want to. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I think it was more a matter of feeling nervous.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, like I haven't had like official interviews since I'm still in school. So the only interviews I had was for my database
Yeah.
position, which was a work study. So it was very simple.
That would
Like,
explain it. That would explain it. But again, in this case, I would not say, oh, she was nervous, so we'll forgive it. So in the other case, when someone else was speaking, I said, oh, he was nervous. He was talking enough that I could get what he wants and who he is. From you, I couldn't get enough because you were so nervous. So you need to work on your nerves and your confidence so you can actually share enough. Maybe you know what you want and you know what you're doing, but it didn't come across that way.
yeah, thank you for your feedback. Since I haven't graduated yet, do you have any other advice about how I can stand out from other candidates who have work experience?
So,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Stan.
Oh no, I
Just
was
on
just
the
going to
roll.
say, we mentioned this at the beginning of today's call. I'm not sure if you were here for that, but in this day and age, networking is so important that just having a really good resume doesn't mean anything. So right now, while you're still in school, still haven't graduated yet, start reaching out and build as many connections as you can professionally. Keep in contact with some of your classmates, right? Make sure that you are keeping in touch with them and seeing what kind of movement happens as you guys continue to grow and develop yourself and see where they end up in their careers, right? And keep in contact with them. You can continue to work on projects yourself to up level your skills as well. And then the last thing I want to touch on is just the interview piece of it, right? You mentioned you were nervous. Totally fine. We get it. You haven't interviewed too much. So it's just a learning experience, right? Continue to attend these type of sessions, record yourself, apply for more jobs or internships, and continue to practice interviewing because it is a skill.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I would add, yes, interviewing is a skill, but there's plenty of opportunities in your studying to present yourself and to present who you are and your skills. You have to learn to talk about yourself from the place of confidence and knowing who you are. So I would say, even if you don't have opportunities to interview, just use the opportunities you have at your school and just raise your hand and say, hey, I want to be a lead for this project, or I want to talk about my experience with this project, or I want to tell you about the results that I accomplished. Use an opportunities to speak up and talk about what you do and who you are. That's the only way you're going to get practice on talking about your accomplishment and building your confidence.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the feedback. And is there any feedback for my resume itself?
We'll do the resume reviews in the next 2 weeks. Join the same thing, like join to our meetup group, Slack channel. I think you're on the Slack channel. So we first will post all our events in the Slack channel. And yeah, we'll do the separate, very similar exercise, but with the resume reviews. Pretty much very simple. Also, like in our Slack channel, there is a few resources that we posted. The resume guideline, which is covering like 90% of all most common mistakes that usually graduates or people are doing. Yeah, but
Okay.
overall, join us next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, candidate number 8.
Thank you.
Yeah, folks, thank you so much. I know we couldn't cover all folks who posted their resumes there. I know it's a great opportunity, but I've learned even today a lot just by listening what we went through today. So yeah, join our next sessions. Join to Tatyana's events in Seattle. If you're local to Seattle, you should come over. If you're in software engineering, in QA, it's a great opportunity. Networking, where you can get the meaningful connection that may end up or may not towards to your job, but it will eventually will pay off anyway. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Tatyana, for giving valuable
Thank you,
feedback.
everyone. Thank you, our candidates.
And of course, we went through brave candidates. I know it's a nerve-wracking exercise to, especially on the camera, especially on the people who looking into you and may judging you, may not, but we all are here for learning. So yeah, the only way what we can do is just practicing and keep going. All right.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you all.